place on fire. We're gonna give you what you really want. Come on, step into my dreams. We're gonna rock tonight for a while.
Welcome to the GSTL. I am Wolf, and with me is Caldor. We've got a lot of fans here in the studio today. It is MVP versus FXOpen. How are you feeling today, Caldor?
I'm actually pumped as hell. This is going to be so great. This clan war is just awesome. It's epic.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be a really close match, I think. Both of these teams have star players on them. There's a lot of variety. There are Korean casters. You can see in the center there are former NBC game caster has actually joined the roster of our Korean casters. So welcome him if you're an NBC game fan. You know, he switched over. He's now working for GOMTV. And I'm actually really excited to get these matches started, man. I'm really stoked to see who they're going to pick. Obviously, we've got some really top-notch players. In Codes, we have Gumiho right now, and of course, Genius, both players in the round of 4 from both of these teams. So obviously, they've been able to get quite far. Dongre-gu as well in the round of 4. And of course, Linok has done quite well in the past. We've got Oz doing well in a lot of seasons. So there's a ton of depth to both rosters.
Exactly. We have just amazing players today, and this clan war is going to be so great. The one thing that's for certain is that this time we won't have an all-kill. We won't have like a 5-1. This is definitely going to be epic. There are so many Codes players in the lineups of both of them, and it's just going to be legendary, ladies and gentlemen. And we have the team information. Here we go with a couple of information. The teams, the captain for MVP, none other than DRG, and the captain for FXO is Oz.
Yep, Oz actually had a lot of coaching experience from his Height Sparky's days from Brood War.
Did he?
So yeah, he actually did a lot of coaching. Even though he was a player back in those days, he actually did a lot of coaching as well. He really helped manage the players. As you can see, the record there, not the best for FXOpen, 4-7. MVP with a much stronger record. As far as sets go, though, FXOpen still 30-37, nearing 50% there. You can see as far as roster goes, there are a ton of players in Code B for FXOpen. A lot of people who haven't really shown themselves quite yet in the GSL, but you've seen a lot of them before. We've got our starting player, for example, today. It's going to be FXO Tier. He's someone who's really never shown himself very often in the GSL. He's played in a lot of online leagues and things like that, but he's a player who is a Protoss who's been training really hard. I've been told, he joined the roster after I actually left the team FXOpen, but I've been told that he trains more than anyone else as far as total number of games played. He really grinds out the game, so I'm really excited to see what kind of play we're going to see out of him today, Caldor.
I actually saw him play against Match1 just recently. They played in an online qualification tournament. I can't really say which one exactly it was, but he played really well and took the series with 2-0. So in the matchup against Terran, he seems to be pretty confident. And here we have the players, MVP and FXOpen. Here they are.
Yeah, you can see the FXOpen lineup, very extensive, but obviously very matched by MVP. A ton of players on both rosters, very large teams. There are our coaches. Obviously, Choya, well known as a player as well as a coach.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen him countless times in the GSTL as well, but this time he is not the starting player for FXO. We have MVP once again, and I have to stretch it once again. The players in today's lineups are just crazy. This is some of the best players that we have in the GSL, and today's plan just promises to be so intense, so exciting.
It will be an amazing match for sure. I mean, I really feel like we've watched both teams' rosters kind of grow up over the past year. Both of these teams are kind of newer. FXOpen used to be FOU. They joined a lot of foreigners, joined into FXOpen, then FOU came together. The foreigners have kind of all left the roster now. So you can see this development of a team. MVP is a little bit of a newer team. It's got star players like Dongre-gu.
The cool thing with MVP is that they were not only able to take the last season, but they also won the first season of the KSL. So as a team, they are really strong.
Absolutely.
Here we have Dongre-gu, the captain of MVP. We have Keen, Terran player.
And here is SC, formerly of FOU actually, so a little bit of rivalry there.
MVP Dream, another Terran for the MVP team. And of course also Noblesse. A lot of very good Terrans in the roster.
Look at the GSL rank for some of these players. Even though many of them are in Code B, they've been in the GSL before. That ranking is really a good indicator of how well they've done. There's Vampire, he played in Team League last season as well. And Genius, of course, pretty highly ranked. He's a Code S player in the round of 4 right now.
He just beat MC with 3-0, which was quite impressive.
He's the BlizzCon champion as well. And here is Monster, one of our newer players. He played actually quite well in the GSL, and he was able to Play last season, he did pretty well. I remember he lost to Nada in a notable bunker rush, but...
Monster, I have the feeling he's not that experienced just yet, so of course when he plays in the studio he's a little bit nervous, but he has shown a lot of good results in the past, and well, we can certainly expect a lot of good games from him in the future as well. Maybe he will be able to shine today.
Look at that win percentage for Zerg. There's only 2 Zergs, that's Monster and Dongregu, but Dongregu, people have called him the final boss. In the Fantasy GSTL, he was the player to pick because he won almost all of his games. Something else to note is that Tails is part of this roster. He's kind of an up-in-the-air, heads or tails almost type player. He was able to beat Nesty in the finals versus IM last season, so consider him someone they might pull out as a last resort as well.
Tails is one of the players that is closely watched by European players, as for example Todd and Naniwa, because they love his builds. They actually say the build is really, really good. It's a Tails build. It's kind of funny. Here we have the lineup for FXO. Oz. Pretty confident. The starting player today is going to be Tier.
Yep. Here is ASD. Used to be Nuclear.
Exactly. And we have the best.
Gotta watch out for his all-ins, man.
Chest out.
Gumiho also in the round of 4.
Such a boss. And we have XD, a new addition to the team.
Yeah, very new player. And Lenok.
He doesn't need any introduction, does
no
he? And he's not Protoss.
That's alright. And of course, Lucky is a Zerg player as well. Some stats mix-ups here. But last but not least, FXO Whale, one of our newer players as well for the team FXO.
Yeah, we've seen him at the World Cyber Games. He was not really able to hold a candle to his opponents, but still he has been around for a bit and played a couple of tournaments. Not that successful just yet, but well, you might see if he's able to get a win or two today. So here's once again the bench for FXOpen, and pretty nice lineup, 4 talents, 4 Protoss and 3 Zergs.
Especially as far as it goes for their individual league. Their GSTL performance, as you can see, all of their win rates just bordering 50%, hovering around 40 to 46 there. But that's just Team League performance, and a lot of this may be counting their Team League performance when they included their foreigners, who obviously did not do very well. I don't know exactly how that race distribution there is calculated, but either way, they were able to push through here. They won their consolation match against ZeNEX. They seemed to do quite well in that match. Obviously losing their first game against Slayers, but overall I think they look pretty strong. And I was looking at FXO's lineup this season, before the season started, and I thought, you know, I think this team is kind of like the TSL of last season, maybe, where they've just got such a good depth of lineup. If the coach, Choya, if he makes the right decisions, they may be able to win here. Now here is our starting player from MVP, a good starting choice. It is MVP Keen.
It's going to be a really, really nice match. I love Keen's style, I really like it, and the one thing that I really like about a lot of Korean players, I mentioned it in past comment casts that we did, is he also plays a lot on European and North American tournaments, and it's kind of nice to see that he's putting in the extra effort, staying up all night in order to put himself out there, in order to participate in some foreign events, to just make people realize that he's a force to be reckoned with. And now we have him as a starting player in today's clan war, which I really, really like. And he is up against the Protoss, so he will have to show us his Terran versus Protoss play.
Yep, and that Protoss player, in fact, is... We'll see in just a moment. I don't want to spoil it. You guys already know. I already mentioned it. Well, speaking of Keen here just a little bit, he was always a little bit inconsistent, so it looks like MVP thinks he's improved quite a bit to choose him as the first. But anyway, here is our Protoss Tier. Like we mentioned earlier, one of the newer additions to FXOpen. And no stats for him, since obviously he's a newer player.
Yeah, we don't have any I have to admit that the only time that I really saw him play was the one match that I mentioned already, when he faced Major in one of the online qualifiers, and he won that with 2-0, so let's see if he's able to take the matches against Keen as well. I actually have no idea who's going to win today's climber, to be honest with you. Both players have the lineup in order to succeed. It will come down to the shape of each player today. And yeah.
And the coach's decisions. I really feel the coach decisions are going to be so crucial in this match, because both teams have some of the best players in the world. Some might argue the best players in the world. But the problem is, if they come out against each other at the wrong order, it may be too late. One team may be out of the players that they need to use. Some of the best players that they have on these teams are better at certain matchups. So only time will tell. Our first map is going to be Metropolis, I believe. Actually, I take it back. It's Cloud Kingdom.
Cloud Kingdom is our first map today, and it's quite a nice map for Terran vs Protoss. I actually like it. The start of the season, I wasn't too sure if that's really a map that I'm going to like, but the games that we've seen on Cloud Kingdom so far were actually really intense. And ladies and gentlemen, we are just starting with the countdown right now, so we will be in the match in just a few seconds. Keen against Tier is going to be the first match of the day in the team match between MVP and FXO. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back after a quick, well, not a quick break, but after a couple of seconds with the first match today with Wolf and Kaldor. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, at the bottom left of the map in the red color, starting for Team MVP, the Terran player...
MVP, Keen!
MVP Keen, that's right, Commander Keen for you. And he is playing on Cloud Kingdom, the first map in this clan war, in this team match. We have at the top right his opponent in the blue color, starting for FXO. It is...
FXO, here!
Looks like a very young player, a lot of potential. And I've heard, you know, like I mentioned earlier, this guy really likes to grind out the ladder games, loves to practice. If he's laddering or if he's playing customs, he's constantly playing several hours a day.
So he's the Korean Sasa?
Maybe so, man. I think he, from what I've heard, man, he puts Sasha to shame for how many ladder games he does.
That would be quite a lot. I remember one of the seasons when Sasa had like 2,500 ladder games.
Wow.
It was actually insane. I just looked at his stats and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this can't be true. He must have had someone share an account with him, but actually he didn't. So, yeah, that's going to be the first match today, and I'm pumped. We have Cloud Kingdom, Terran versus Protoss, and... yeah.
Quick wall by Keen. He's going to hide the fact that he's taken neither of his gases. And of course, when Tier gets there with his probe, he's going to assume it's a 1-Rax expand. And in fact, that probe will arrive very shortly here. He's already seen by the probe's pathing, okay, he's got a wall, early wall, fast expand, more than likely. Now, we may see Keen do something that a lot of players have been doing recently and just double gas behind this to trick Tier, but I don't think that's what we're going to see. Not on this map. This is a good map for a 1-Rax expand.
Yeah, indeed it is. Usually, sometimes if you want to try to trick your opponent and play some mind games, you just take the one gas, you let the probe in, you chase it out, and then you switch just with a reactor at the barracks and you start with your expansion nonetheless. So the Protoss player will be doubting, okay, what are you exactly going to do? Are you going for the fast expansion? Are you just trying to put some pressure on with the gas that you just mined? But we see him with the with the early command center, as Wolf already expected. So this is exactly what he's up to. And I think that Tier is probably opening with an early expansion himself.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to do a 1 gateway expand. He already showed the Zealot. And so right now, he's going to think, okay, very likely to see that. Oh, he's actually going to sneak in his... Oh, I didn't quite see that command center. That was a close call.
Already building the bunker at the front just to be on the safe side, and so far no expansion just yet, but he's already saving up some minerals and killing the SCV. Protoss versus Terran, the win rates that we have right now for the matches: 10 wins, 4 losses, 71%.
It's actually pretty high win rates there for Protoss.
Yeah.
Not that many games played yet on this map.
We've seen a lot of aggression, especially in the early days when this map entered the GSTL. We've seen a lot of Protoss players chrono boosting out 2 Stalkers at the beginning and 1 Zealot and trying to apply some pressure, and quite often the Terran player has had a lot of problems dealing with it, but nowadays they kind of adapted to it. They're a little more safer. That's why the Protoss players just don't play all that aggressive anymore. And Keen is actually building 3 barracks right now. That's quite a lot of barracks. He still didn't take gas. He has no gas whatsoever.
These Marines actually have somehow been able to avoid the vision of the Stalker. They're going to go in here. The Sentry may go down depending on how this micro turns out. Yeah, it's a nice micro by Tier. He's actually going to be able to keep that Sentry alive. And actually, no probes lost. A little bit of mining time lost, however.
Yeah.
Sentry damaged slightly. You're exactly right, though. He's going up to 4 barracks, which means he's going to have this timing where he hits with about 8 to 10 Marines very early before the gateway production has been hit. It really punishes someone who gets a fast robotics like this. And with very few units out, he may be able to target down sentries or some probes when he moves out with that 10 to 12 Marine count.
By now we have him with the gas number 3. He added 2 refineries after he finished the 4 barracks and is now adding a 3rd one, so he can finally start to get at least a couple of tech labs in order to get stim started, to get combat shield started, and of course his factory to get medivacs into the game. But, well, we have our FXOpen player already with a switch down to the expansion, a couple of probes sliding down, and still the 2 Stalkers that the Marines somehow were able to evade earlier.
Yeah, I actually really like that he's putting pressure on this bunker with the Stalkers. There's no Stalker range in StarCraft 2, no singularity charge, so even though he can put pressure on, he does have to pull away. But I like that he's doing that anyways, because with good multitasking, good micro, he can just force a repair, force some minerals lost. There's even an SCV being pulled off. I really like all these things. Double gas is being taken now for Tier. As his first observer comes out, the scan does see the Robo, so he knows it's not going to be a super fast 6-gate, 7-gateway type all-in. I like the positioning of the Marauder here on the high ground. He doesn't have concussive shells yet.
You're right, it's really, really nice. And the Stalkers also have another purpose, because you mentioned that he was just trying to get 4 barracks in order to be a little bit more aggressive with his Marines, but with the Stalkers just kind of containing him and the Marines not having stim just yet, no concussive shell, he can't move out with the Marines only, because the Stalkers will just use their higher range and snipe 1 Marine at a time and just make sure that they only lose the shields and then retreat. So the attack of MVP Keen would have been crippled in the beginning, and now we have exactly what we were expecting, a little bit of pressure, this time with Marauders though as well, so that the Stalkers are not able to take on 1 Marine at a time, and well, he has to be a little bit careful now.
He's sitting about 14 Marines and 2 Marauders with this first push. There are already 5 sentries out though, Kaldor, and a lot of them with quite a bit of energy stored up, so he wants to pressure, he wants to take the Watchtowers, but he knows he can't really attack the natural. He knows this at this point. He's seen the Robo, he's seen the gateway count. Twilight Council is up. Will we see a fast Dark Shrine? No, it's actually going to be charged. I thought maybe he was going to use Dark Shrine and try to control the map. I like this charge choice better. Right now, it's kind of rare for Protoss players to get that fast blink tech. I mean, fast charge tech. They usually go for the faster blink tech, but because he knows the factory is late, he's going to go for the charge instead.
And we have the Ghost Academy already. He's building the Ghost Academy even before the factory finishes, so a very, very early attempt maybe to attack with an EMP. If he's able to hit the sentries with a good placed EMP, with a well-placed EMP, then he might be able to charge up the ramp, and that would pose a huge problem to FXOpen Tier.
There's 2 groups coming out here for Keen. Tier's going to have to be careful. He does spot 1 group at the tower. He pulls back, though, knowing there's a possibility of a second one. Combat shields are done. +1 is finishing. Concussive shells are almost done. This is a really nice timing by Keen. And it looks like Tier's taking a... Oh, nice catch here on the pylon. Looks like Tier is taking a page out of Oz's book. Fast 2-base High Templar coming out. He's actually going to clean up some of these units. He's actually going to force a stim. Force Field's just a second too late, but the stim has been forced, and now he should be able to retreat without losing very many units.
And he's moving in at the natural expansion as well.
Oh, wow.
This army will be able to do a lot of damage. Is he moving into the main base? Yes, he actually is trying to snipe down additional units that are currently being locked in. And the attack!
The charge is not going to finish! Oh no, charge is cancelled!
And the forge, he's might be able to take down the forge as well, concentrating on the units now, at least killing some of the
But
sentries.
in the natural, probes are being taken out, and counter the worker count now 53 to 36. Oh no, it looks like Keen going to take a huge lead here. Yeah, a lot of his units are damaged. He's going to target down the sentries, though, gets 2 additional sentries.
Backs off now, and this is just a major lead for Keen now. He was able to kill his opponent's tech. Storm is being researched for Tier, but he has to rebuild. He has to rebuild his Twilight Council. He doesn't have charge just yet. 17 workers killed for MVP Keen. Wow, what a nice play by our starting player for Team MVP.
Absolutely. 2 medevacs are on the way as well. Keen has taken such a huge lead here. The only disadvantage, I guess you could say, he got was he had to stim a lot of his units, but with the medevac's out, now he's got such a small group of units that are left alive, and he traded so well with the ones he lost that he's going to heal up the ones that are still alive. He's got a Ghost in the mix now, as you were mentioning earlier, with that faster Templar tech, faster Ghost tech. The charge has been restarted. If he had that, he would have a much stronger army, but he doesn't have that cutter. He also, he did keep his Forge alive. He's got Storm, but he's barely, I do not think, has enough to hold this pressure off. He's going to lose a lot of units when this attack hits, even with Storms.
He is so far behind in supply already. He's like 40 supply behind. and the storms have to be perfect for him to take the game now. And he has to dodge, obviously, all the ghosts. And here we have our Protoss player walking down the ramp. No, just feigning a little bit. And this is Keen trying to take down at least a bunch of Zealots before he's actually attacking the army head-on. But one storm, a second storm hits. So Keen has to be careful.
Looking here, it looks like the only ghost. He tried to keep it in the medevac, doesn't have enough energy for another EMP. He's got just almost enough energy. A storm actually gets a decent hit, but the flank is so good right now. He's losing too many units, I think. Kaldor snipes going off on the Zealots. The Archon tanking some hits here.
Look at the Sutter step. The Zealots can't do anything at all. They don't have charge just yet. They get annihilated. Here comes the Mana Mule.
And with reinforcements here, Kaldor, I think game one is definitely going to MVP Keen. Templar being morphed into an Archon, but that's not going to help. MVP Keen tearing through the first set.
Very, very well done. A nice attack. This positioning was perfect in this game. And FXOpen here. Types GG leaves the match 1-0 for MVP.
Well played, well played. A nice timing attack. His opponent was caught a little bit off guard. Tried to tech a little bit too much, and he was not prepared for the flank. He wasn't ready for the units to run into his natural. It tore him apart. He lost so many pros, but more importantly, he lost the charge. Without charge, holding that push is just impossible. Even if he had charge, though, the positioning for Keen's units and his composition was just so good. You can see a little bit of disappointment there on Shoya's face. Coach there, of course, Slog is kind of like an assistant coach, I guess you could say. Helps manage the team quite often, so that's why they're sitting together there. But obviously, we'll see another player come out here. I think we're not going to see a Protoss this time against Keen, especially after that play. I'm really more so interested in the map, though, than the player for Keen, because in Team League, you can only pick each map once, as long as the rules are the same as they were before, and I believe that's correct. So if he wants to get rid of a map, he may, for example, if he wants to use a Protoss layer, he may pull out a Terran on dual site, and then TBT on dual site against Keen. I think that would be a smart choice, because there are a lot of good Protosses on FXOpen, so he may want to get rid of dual site, for example, or get rid of Crossfire with the Terran and do a TBT on Crossfire. That's a decision that Shoya may want to make here.
We might even see Monster now.
Well, Monster's on MVP.
Okay, let's just forget that I ever said that.
I'm like, if we see a camera shot of MVP, we may see him. I'll be like, there he is, Kaldor, and he'll be like, oh, okay, I see him.
Exactly. That was what I was talking about. Yeah, that would be really interesting. Monster just now switching teams within an instant and playing suddenly against MVP.
Oh,
yeah.
Something else to note.
Lucky.
Nada switched teams
to
Complexity today, but in the rules of GSTL, he cannot join their roster until next season. So,
and we definitely won't see Lucky or Lenok, because the next map is going to be Calm Before the Storm, and I would be really, really surprised if a Zerg player would pick this map against a Terran.
I would be extremely surprised. We will probably see a Protoss. It's going to be Choya himself! Oh, Choya! Taking it all off to come out here on Calm Before the Storm, a great map for Protoss.
Oh my god, and there has been... That was awesome. Choya going all sexy on Keen. The thing is that apparently there has been a little bit of discussion on Play XP between Genius and Choya about Choya being a little bit too bad, or that is, Genius was apparently going on that it's not able to drop down to Code B
he
if
said,
you
wow,
play a couple of games
he said,
each
like,
day.
if I play 10 games a day, I cannot imagine being in Code B, so he was basically insulting Choya in that way.
And I think they actually talked in the comments. He was like, yeah, how did you manage to drop down? And Choya responded, okay, well, wait and see. Every time, when we face you in the Team League, every time we make a win, my whole team will just pull off something. And now he's taking charge. He wants to get he wants to finish Keen off, and that would be just such a great start, and it would give him the opportunity to get back at Genius.
I think we may actually be having a 5-minute break before this game actually starts. But I'm really curious to see what build Choya is going to do here. Obviously, he's chosen this map intentionally. Calm Before the Storm is a very common Nexus first map. But anyway, we're going to brainstorm those builds. You guys will too. We're going to take a 5-minute break. When we get back, Choya is going to see if he can tie things up 1-1 against MVP Keen. So don't go anywhere. This is the GSTL.